you hear me?
I can hear you, Bronson. Can you hear me, or can you hear the YouTube video playing underneath me?
I hear you.
All right, let me stop this. Now this tool that here, by the way, would be very useful in debates. Just saying. Okay.
Okay. Oh yeah, you're bringing up a screen. I see that. That's cool.
Yeah,
it would be.
I'll go ahead and shut that off so we're not distracted here.
All right, so this is your debate. So
yeah. So I'll just a quick review. I was looking at Bronson's YouTube channel and something caught me by surprise. Basically, he had a stance that essentially said GMO agricultural in its current form in the USA, right, is not as dangerous, or is equally as dangerous as their non-GMO counterparts, due to the fact that additional pesticides are used on the non-genetically modified organisms. Now, this is essentially our debate is about Monsanto. And basically where I wanted to go from here is just kind of ask you, in a free market, if the product was so good, wouldn't you agree that they would advertise it?
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, that's
so the reason that in the last 4 years I've had real suspicions about Monsanto, it's probably the same reason that they exited the dairy industry in the 90s. As soon as the public starts researching what they're doing, because they don't advertise what their service is to the public, I find out there's more things that I don't like than I do like.
It's important to know that Monsanto doesn't make products for the public per se. They do advertise to farmers, but if you're not a farmer,
well, that's actually not true. There is actually one company that's come out, and they specifically put on their label that it's genetically modified, and the genetic modifications have they'll list the genetic modification benefits. They'll say, like there's a company, I can't remember it offhand, but they were doing tomatoes, and they said triple the vitamin C, they triple the lycopene. Every seed is guaranteed to have antioxidants in it at a certain level. There's multiple levels that genetic engineering could actually have to benefit the consumers. However, that company that I mentioned can't operate in the USA because Monsanto has patent on seed companies. And because they have patent on most of the seed companies, they have a patent on like genetically modified corn, which is 97% of the corn in the United States is genetically modified by the same seed, right? So there's no diversity in what we're seeing here. So I think it's pretty fair to say that when we're talking about genetically modified food, in this case, we're talking about very specific types of products, right? It's not like my example is good and bad.
You can't just limit it to one company making GMOs, because it's not true. There's lots of different GMOs out there.
There's a lot. Let's just say that again. I'm sorry, my fucking volumes.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of different GMOs, and the technology. For me, it's like metallurgy, or would you be opposed to using metals for things? It's like, well, that really depends on what you make with it. You can't say it's good or bad per se.
That's true. So
depends on the product, right? So, like, if we're talking about, GMO papaya, for example, that has, I guess this is not the scientifically accurate way, but it's inoculated against the ring spot virus. So, that's not owned by Monsanto or anything. So that's just one example of a GMO.
Okay, fair enough. But at this moment, at least, right? All farming is kind of regulated by Monsanto in terms of the bioengineering industry, right? There's no competition to Monsanto. They bought up all the competition. They are, and essentially,
I mean, they are one of the most competitive companies out there, sure. I mean, but they offer a good product, so.
Well, I actually don't understand what you said. They don't offer any products to consumers. What products do they offer that are good?
Well, when you're talking about consumers, you're talking about people in grocery stores, right? So Monsanto would have no real need to be advertising to those people because that's like two down the chain. They work with farmers directly.
Right.
So
Wouldn't you say that farmers would be eager to show how their product can differentiate themselves over?
some are, but you're assuming perfect rationality, and as we know, there's not perfect rationality in any
Right.
market. You just have to deal with the irrationality of consumers. They've been turned against GE technology because of propaganda. At this point, it'd be like slapping a "Made in Russia" label on your shit. You know what I mean? Like people have an irrational view towards that already, right or wrong. But
So your
that's
idea is that because of propaganda, we can't they can't release information that may benefit them. So
well, you have to do a cost benefit analysis. I mean, is there any real benefit to advertising that it is GMO? Well, some entrepreneurs would say yes. So obviously, there is a company who's promoting.
we have a test
GMOs,
case.
most of them look at it as being more risk than benefit.
Well, they really don't actually have the option. If you buy a gallon of milk, just go to a grocery store. You'll notice that almost every single one of the gallons specifically says our cows are not treated with RBST growth hormone.
Mm-hmm.
RBST growth hormone was Monsanto's invasion of the dairy industry in the 80s and 90s. 90% of the milk that went into the grocery stores for the entire decade was RBST influenced milk, right? As soon as competitors tried to argue that, well, the milk that they're having might have side effects in humans, and the FDA immediately came out and said anybody that says that RBST growth hormone has any negative side effects, right, will be fined, and that those labels will be removed. So the only thing that they were allowed to put on, because Monsanto and the FDA, in my opinion, are pretty much a revolving door, are this milk does not contain RBST growth hormone, and that's what you'll see today. That label,
yeah, I know that was also based on some propaganda as well. I mean, if you look at
that label alone, you can say that, but that label alone is like it. When the FDA says something, I tend to believe I tend to be skeptical. So if the FDA says there's absolutely no evidence that RBST growth hormone given to cows that are fed cows are not going to have any long-term side effects on the humans, I tend to be skeptical, and I would prefer to know that the product I have is not treated or is treated with that. Perhaps they'll say that that there's benefits that there are in there, but if there's only propaganda, that's already been handled. You ingest. And everyone that
is by the market, so I don't get what argument you're trying to make here.
Well, the free market drove Monsanto, like just putting that factual statement on the milk, drove Monsanto completely out of the dairy industry, and now their product has completely disappeared, and they've moved on.
So what argument are you making based on
that? That if the actual product was good, putting the label on it that's factually accurate, but that has no connotations of negative or positive benefits, cannot do harm.
But you just asked me that, and I've already responded that due to irrationality created through propaganda.
I mean, you can say that irrationality, like would point out that irrationality 20 years after the fact is still being put on those milk labels because it's a product differentiation.
I agree, because of irrationality. That's why that still exists. The non-GMO label exists. The organic label exists.
Those aren't labeled.
All these things are based off irrationality. You have to know that.
Non-GMO is a voluntary, as like a
yes. It would be. It's like gluten-free water. I've seen gluten-free water in the fucking grocery store before.
That's dubious.
And I'm thinking, why in the fuck would you put wheat in your water anyways? Like, what process involves putting wheat in water? You know, it's just pandering to irrationality. People say, "Oh, gluten-free, that's good, that's better." I don't know. I'm a fucking consumer. I don't know about this kind of shit. I'm gonna buy the gluten-free water, I guess.
I have seen that, and because it's a dubious claim. That's capturing on a fad. But you'll notice that every other instance of a label being put on a product is to advertise it.
But to answer your question, that is why such labels exist, because of irrationality. We know that consumers are irrational. They don't know what the fuck's going on. They don't know up from down. They're going sideways. They're like, no, I guess I'll get the gluten-free one,
But
or
they
I'll
make
get
their own
the
decision.
organic one. Yeah, they don't know what the hell's going on. So,
Right,
I mean,
but
to
it's
answer
like,
your question, that's
restricting.
why they're not. That's why it's why bother explaining the science to people who, first of all, it's really hard to explain science to dumb people. Two, they're usually not interested in the first place, and three, there's no real benefit to it. Like in the end, if you're trying to help someone along with a totally irrational consumer, trying to like get them to make split-second decisions that are based on nothing more than a whim, it doesn't make sense to try to go through and explain the science to people. I mean, it just doesn't.
Well, that kind of goes to my next point. The milk incident is clearly, in my opinion, it's like objectively, how can I say, a negative product that affects human health. If you compare it to raw milk that you get right from the cow that's eating grass, because I get cow
that's incredibly dangerous.
Sorry, what's your objection?
Raw milk. I mean, it's statistically shown to be incredibly dangerous compared to pasteurized.
Okay. So, if you say it's statistically shown to do that. So, give me an example of how that would manifest. Give me an example,
Well,
not a statistical generalization. Give me an example of how that would manifest.
Well, have you ever heard of listeria?
What?
Have you ever heard of listeria?
Listeria?
Yeah.
No. Continue.
So that's one of the known health risks of drinking whole milk. Now, I'm not going to say like anyone who drinks milk is going to get
the amino acid lysine.
What?
Is that because it contains the amino acid lysine?
No. So listeria is a bacteria and it can poison you. So you can. It's really bad. It sucks and it's not good. And people are known to get it from drinking raw milk.
Body works is it's actually not something. It's actually not something that's actually simple where you have a linear ingestion. Right. The reason that
it's like this. Look,
am I breaking up?
If you eat raw meat, don't you think that's going to increase your likelihood compared to if you cook your meat? Don't you think cooking is likely to, if there is any
raw meat?
But if there is anything wrong with the meat, cooking it is certainly going to reduce some of the bacteria. Wouldn't you say? Like you're going to reduce your chances at least.
I would say, but neither are actually healthy for a human. The only meat that you should be eating is meat that you can raw.
So raw meat does not have known associated higher risk than cooking meat.
You're not supposed to be eating mammals, right? This goes into a different subject.
Let's do fish,
if you're eating
then.
raw,
like
the reason that you actually can't.
Aren't cooked fish more likely to, or less likely to have harmful bacteria? Wouldn't you say?
It's actually guaranteed to have no beneficial bacteria. It's guaranteed to have the amino acid content of add heat to it. It becomes carcinogenic.
Let's say you started off with a 50-50 chance that the raw fish had something in it. And then you cooked it. Don't you think it would reduce it by a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
Like, wouldn't you increase your odds by a little bit of not getting poisoned by cooking that fish? Or no, none at all?
I mean, if you're in a vacuum, right? If you have a 50-50 chance where you're fishing out of ignorance and you know nothing about it, and you fish where you have no idea where the environment came from, sure, in a vacuum you wouldn't do it. That's why I said when I get raw milk, I don't buy raw milk at Whole Foods. I actually go to see what the cow's eating and the cow is sick. Right? These are things that actually require context.
You're not the average consumer by any stretch of the imagination. Most people don't know the cows that their milk comes from. Probably you knew that. Yeah, so in any case, it's a known health risk. I don't know if you're aware of that or not. I mean, I'm not saying you're gonna, if you drink raw milk
Um,
tomorrow, you're gonna get sick, but I am saying you have a much higher chance than me. I drink pasteurized and homogenized milk. If it smells bad, I don't drink it.
well,
And I've never gotten sick from regular milk.
well, that's fine. That because what you're doing is you're essentially having a sugar water with some added with some added fat to it, depending on what you're doing. As soon basically you have zero nutrient value of milk that's been passed.
Yeah,
Even the vitamin D that they add into it, right, is an absorbable. Like the bioavailability of vitamin D that you drink through milk, pasteurized milk, is less than
it's
one
okay. I
percent.
mean, I eat a lot of meat and I get my vitamins elsewhere. So
And more power to you. But the reason that I pointed out the raw milk is raw milk actually contains prebiotics yeah, when it's in its raw form. Prebiotics are essentially the building blocks to building connective tissue in the body. When you build connective tissue in the body, you essentially strengthen the gut, which actually empowers you to be able to fight off disease in the long term. So in a vacuum, right? If I say, well, should I drink raw milk, or should I and take a risk of getting bacteria, or should I take the sugar water? I would say, yeah, if you want to risk not getting any bad bacteria, take the sugar water. But if you're looking to actually build your long-term health, right, over past the next week, then you want to recommend to research what you put in your body. So when firms actually lie or fight to restrict the information that I'm trying to do because I can't,
you're cutting out. Hello? Hello? Wait a bit.